Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Modi says BRICS is not a divisive organization but one that works in the interest of humanity as India welcomes new partner countries into the grouping.
WTO reforms, trade facilitation in agriculture, resilient supply chains, e-commerce और स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को लेकर जो सहमति बनी है, उससे हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बल मिलेगा।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS summit shortly. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken lands in Riyadh in the new push for Israel-Saudi Arabia normalization. And Donald Trump's team accuses UK's Labour Party of election interference as Keir Starmer tries to play down the row. So up first, all the news related to the 16th BRICS summit underway in Kazan, Russia. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the 16th BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, where he addressed the plenary session of the BRICS summit on Wednesday. Prime Minister Modi highlighted the impact of the new development bank on the global south. The bank, he said, provides long-term financial sustainability.
पिछले 10 वर्षों में यह बैंक ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों के विकास के लिए महत्वपूर्ण विकल्प के रूप में उभर रहा है। भारत के गिफ्ट सिटी के साथ साथ अफ्रीका तथा रूस में रीजनल सेंटर्स के खुलने से इस बैंक की गतिविधियों को बल मिला है और लगभग $35 बिलियन के डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स सैंक्शन किए गए हैं। एनडीबी को डिमांड ड्रिवन सिद्धांत पर काम करते रहना चाहिए और बैंक का विस्तार करते हुए लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी, हेल्दी क्रेडिट रेटिंग और मार्केट एक्सेस सुनिश्चित करने पर प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए।
In the address, Prime Minister Modi announced that he is happy to know that BRICS Startup Forum will be launched this year.
हमें स्मॉल और मीडियम स्केल इंडस्ट्री के हितों पर भी फोकस करना चाहिए। मुझे खुशी है कि 2021 में भारत की अध्यक्षता के दौरान प्रस्तावित ब्रिक्स स्टार्टअप फोरम इस वर्ष लॉन्च किया जाएगा। भारत द्वारा दिया गया रेलवे रिसर्च नेटवर्क का इनिशिएटिव भी ब्रिक्स देशों के बीच लॉजिस्टिक्स और सप्लाई चेन कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाने में अहम भूमिका निभा रहा है।
The summit this year is quite a historic one as the old and new leaders of the expanded BRICS family came for their first photo together. Leaders included of Russia, India, China, South Africa, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia and the United Arab Emirates. The leader of Brazil attended the summit virtually. The group now stands stronger and united together for an inclusive and multipolar world. The summit is themed Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security. Prime Minister Modi, along with other world leaders, including Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping, also posed for the photo op at the BRICS Summit 2024 in Kazan. And during the plenary session, Prime Minister Modi also emphasized how BRICS is now economically stronger and the reforms and initiatives have helped it grow.
नए स्वरूप में ब्रिक्स $30 ट्रिलियन से भी ज्यादा बड़ी इकोनॉमी है। हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बढ़ाने में ब्रिक्स बिजनेस काउंसिल और ब्रिक्स विमेन बिजनेस अलायंस की विशेष भूमिका रही है। इस वर्ष ब्रिक्स के अंदर WTO रिफॉर्म्स, ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन इन एग्रीकल्चर, रेजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन्स, ई-कॉमर्स और स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को लेकर जो सहमति बनी है, उससे हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बल मिलेगा।
And now let's bring you the top 10 highlights of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks. This one at the closed-door session at the 16th BRICS Summit. And these are as follows. Prime Minister Modi said, preventing inflation, ensuring food security, energy security, health security, water security are matters of priority for all countries in the world. We have to give the world a message that BRICS is not a divisive organization, but one that works in the interest of humanity. We support dialogue and diplomacy, not war. And just as we were able to overcome a challenge like COVID together, we are certainly able to create new opportunities to ensure a secure, strong and prosperous future for the coming generations. He further said, in order to counter terrorism and terror financing, we need the single-minded, firm support of all. There is no place for double standards on this serious matter. We need to take active steps to stop radicalization of youth in our countries. By giving our example to the world, we must collectively and in a united manner raise our voice for reforms of global institutions. We must move forward in a time-bound manner on reforms in global institutions such as that of the UN Security Council, multilateral development banks and the WTO. As we take our efforts forward in BRICS, we must be careful to ensure that this organization does not acquire the image of one that is trying to replace global institutions, instead of being perceived as the one that wishes to reform them. The hopes, aspirations and expectations of the countries of the global south must also be kept in mind. The BRICS grouping, created by the confluence of different viewpoints and ideologies, is a source of inspiration for the world, fostering positive cooperation. Our diversity, respect for each other and our tradition of moving forward on the basis of consensus are the basis for our cooperation. Finally, Prime Minister Modi said that he is confident that in the times to come, we will together make this unique platform a model for dialogue, cooperation and coordination. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping shortly on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Russia's Kazan on Wednesday.
There will be a bilateral meeting held between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping 23rd of October on the sidelines of the BRICS summit.
The meeting comes on close heels of New Delhi and Beijing reaching an agreement on patrolling arrangements in areas along the line of actual control as per the situation in the year 2020 that may lead to disengagement and resolution of other issues in future. Later in the day, the Prime Minister will also hold a bilateral meeting with the President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. And we are joined by Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry of the Indian Army, on the show with us. Welcome, sir, to the program. So up first, I'll ask you a generic question. This BRICS meet, the family photo that we saw that came a little while ago, all the 9 members on board, this enhanced grouping, enhanced cooperation, BRICS Plus. Why is this so significant?
You know, as I see, BRICS is what the Prime Minister very nicely put, and I think it was endorsed by President Putin also, that it's not a anti-West, a non-West, and something in which you find that everybody else and all kinds of countries which are looking for aspirational growth rates, and they're looking at not as someone against the West, but be able to cooperate with the West and be able to make the world a far better place to live in, with peace, progress and with the vision that our Prime Minister carries, that he is not only saying that in India, Vasudev Kutumbakam, it is a thing which he wishes to translate it in the entire world. And BRICS being an economic forum, BRICS also has security, peace in mind, resulting in, as I would say, that almost 45% of the world population, as of now, with 9 members. Imagine if 30 more are willing to join. It will virtually turn out to be 75% of the world's population is part of BRICS, which is a very huge component, with 48% of the crude oil production and presently 30% of the world's GDP. So you see, it's a sizable group which can coexist and be able to take the world and ensure that it is not a unipolar world, but a multipolar world, wherein everyone, with irrespective of the, I would say, limitations of each of the countries, one dependent on the other, can take everybody along.
And this was probably at the mind of Russia when it was playing the host. So the theme has been set as strengthening multipolarity for just global development and security.
Without fail. I think this is one of the finest moves, as I see. Well, when it started off with just 5 countries, and all 5 developing countries. And in BRIC, I think China gets a huge cake because it has almost a $19 trillion economy. And you find in the G7, you have America with about $25 trillion economy. But even though they may have an overall G7 may have $40 trillion economy, but BRICS also has about $30 trillion economy as part of 5. And now with Iran also joining in, Egypt also joining in, Ethiopia joining in, South Africa joining. So you find that it's a sizable, good group which together will coexist, which together will ensure that there is no competition, but there is healthy competition, and that healthy competition does not lead to, I would say, unnecessarily bickering, leading to the world not being as peaceful as it is today. Because today you really find, and especially Russia, whoever thought that Russia and Ukraine would have such a long
drawn fight, yes.
Very long drawn fight. It's over 3 years now. We never expected Israel to be dealing with Hamas for over a year.
True.
It was October 7th, and today, imagine October 23rd, they're still on to it. So there are a little bit of, I think, lots of friction points in the world, and with the kind of vision that each one of them has, and very nice, I think, at the right time also, the kind of agreement that has got signed between India and China would help, again, further strengthening the grouping itself. And I think why not, if anybody and everybody can think of the world, and especially when one has passed through very difficult COVID times, one is passing through very difficult times in terms of inflation is concerned, certain countries not doing too well, and certain countries affected badly by the energy prices, certain countries affected by the logistics not being able to move. So you find a lot of chain, the kind of equipment that have supposed to be getting held up because of the kind of war and tension that is prevailing in the world. You see what's going on in the Red Sea. So all that, I think, is there is a requirement today to have sane voices in the world, and those sane voices, what better than the BRICS, which can all at the same time be able to tell G7 also, G20 also, and a multipolar world when everyone is heard and everyone has a voice, everybody can air their views, with the result of peace and tranquility in the world, leading to better, I would say, production, better education, better standard of living, people rising above the poverty lines, and whether it be in Africa, whether it be in Asia, anywhere and everywhere. I think it's a win-win situation where every one of us can live a more honorable life than what one led before.
Okay, thank you, Sanjay ji. Request you to stay on with me as I go over to my correspondent in Kazan right now. Jessica Taneja is with us. Jessica, a word on Prime Minister Modi's remarks at both the closed-door session and the open session of BRICS. He said it's not being a divisive organization, but one that works in the interest of humanity. He's saying that India welcomes the new partner countries.
That's correct. And if you look at the focus that we've had in this particular BRICS summit, you heard the remarks of the Prime Minister. He talked about various things, particularly about he would like to see a multipolar world moving forward. And BRICS, of course, doesn't serve as a counter to the Western architecture. It serves as an alternative for nations who've been striving to be included, suffering because of not just pandemic, but two simultaneous wars, both in Eurasia, right here, and also in West Asia. So look at the global geopolitical climate that is not feasible for countries who struggle financially to look at various other projects. Stress was also made on the National Development Bank and the kind of commitments it's made in the recent past. There was $100 billion categorical amount put in the contingency reserve arrangement back then. And with that effect, we've seen funds being disbursed from the NDB as well to the tune of $30 billion, which has funded various infrastructure projects in countries that were in need of that fund, given how their financial situation has deteriorated or worsened ever since these geopolitical tectonic shifts have taken place. So I think the stress and the emphasis was on that. And let's also not forget, we're talking about the modalities for partner countries, given the kind of interest we've seen in the BRICS grouping. More than 30 countries would want to join in. You also have the presence of the Turkish Prime Minister, the United Nations Security General is here. So you see the kind of importance has been given to the BRICS summit. But for India, it's more about economic integration. We're not looking at particularly, having our own BRICS currency, but trading in local currencies is something that would be very important.
Oh, can you tell us about these 30 countries that have applied for the membership? Why are they so eager to join BRICS?
Well, as you know, the kind of financial situation that is out there in the world, these countries which are developing countries need assistance. You look at the post-World War order and look at the reforms that India, along with many other countries, have been demanding of the UN. And, with that given in mind, of course, it was only time that BRICS would put itself together on that realm and have some more reforms, if not pressing or pushing for them, but also have an integrated system where these countries could be given more room, their issues be made more important. So, of course, these countries would express more interest and look at the economic heft of these countries. The total contribution of the global GDP of these countries is about $35.6 trillion. Compare that to the G7, which is roughly around $30 trillion. So you're talking about, not an alternative setup or a counter to what the G7 is, but you have something that could offer you financial benefits and assistance that is much desperately needed.
Okay, another key declaration made by Prime Minister Modi was that BRICS supports dialogue and diplomacy, not war. Your view on the critical importance of this statement at a time of conflict, discord in so many parts of the world, even as basic human needs remain unfulfilled?
That's correct. The emphasis has been on the resolution of this and the kind of role India can play when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. You'd recall yesterday when the meeting took place between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi, India had stressed on the need for dialogue and diplomacy and resolution of conflicts, particularly for more stable global financial order. Now, there might be differences here and there when it comes to coming to an understanding. But then again, India's position has been clear. And India, of course, is one of the countries, one of the interlocutors who can speak to all sides. It certainly makes a favorable ground for India to create that environment where a resolution or the peaceful resolution could be achieved.
Okay, and as we are all awaiting the very important bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, what could the India-China talks on the sidelines entail and focus on?
Well, the much anticipated bilateral meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Indian Prime Minister, will take place just in a short while from now, and we will not preempt the outcomes of that meeting. But it is significant that it comes ahead of, a multilateral setup and where the leaders were going to meet. You've seen since 2020, the two leaders have met on the sidelines, but not held a bilateral talk. So, the diplomatic breakthrough that has been reached with many military level talks in the backdrop has been able to achieve this. So let's see on how it transpires, whether this leads to resumption of trade ties, whether this leads to direct connectivity of flights between the two nations. But we'll have to only wait and see as to how this progresses further, Tanvi.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I request you to stay on with us. I'm going to take this question to you, Sanjay Ji. What could the India-China talks focus on? It is coming at a time of global conflicts, and they are happening in Kazakh, Russia, and we've had that LAC patrolling agreements being reached upon just before this summit. How should we look at this bilateral?
It's, I think, an excellent opportunity both the leaders have got to be able to discuss with each other, as what we've always maintained. You know, you can change friends, but you can't change your neighbors. And in that context, I think, yes, there have been tensions between India and China ever since that Galwan incident in 2020. And for a long time, talks have been going on, and very, very serious talks with a view to ensure that this kind of friction along the LAC is resolved, and that we could go back to status quo ante at least May 2020. In that context, I think, of course, the modalities will be worked out on ground, in which the two leaders need not be. But the very fact that both of them will be talking, sitting down together. Earlier also, they've had almost 19 kind of meetings between the two of them. And all this, and in a world today when both, I think, China and India have done well, and we find that India is to grow now at least maybe a decade or so at even at 6.5%, 7% annual, which is a very good thing. And China is a huge economy, which is a $19 trillion economy. They are also doing well. We'll also be doing well. Then why not, when two Asian countries together can coexist and be able to do well? It helps both. It's a win-win situation. It's we would much like the growth that China has got. Why not we also have a similar growth in India also? And as neighbors, I have no doubt that we see each other as good neighbors. And neighborly, good neighbors means at least a 1% rise in the GDP. So if you have good neighbors, and whether you have good relationship with Pakistan, you have good relationship with China, you will definitely have additional 2% growth of GDP. So on our own, if you are at 7.5%, we can hope to go to 10%. So we would much like to have good relations, and we have always believed in having good relations with our neighbors. And I'm hopeful and that China also will ensure and see to it that we have good relations, because it's not good, especially when we are neighbors and if we are part of BRICS. And if we are part of BRICS and we have Russia, we have India, we have China, we have Brazil, we have South Africa, now Iran joining in, Ethiopia joining in. So you find that there is a lot. And another, you were saying, mentioning about 30 more countries wanting to join, and India is seen as someone which is,
the founding member of
a founding member, plus seems to be having a sizable amount of, I think, say in Global South. So if you have a say in Global South, we are a founding member of BRICS, and if India is seen as one of the countries which are going to be doing well and is doing well, even the IMF been saying 6.5% growth, which is very, very commendable, because most countries are not even touching 3%. So if you are going at 6.5%, which is very good, I think with the with that in view, and good neighbors with no tension whatsoever along the LAC and the LOC, and economic growth, technological growth, you find that this will benefit the humanity. And if there is peace and tranquility, it benefits everybody, I think. And with what's happening in the West Asia, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, I think it is very important that as Asians, as even part of the Global South, we must all unite and see to it, because during COVID, we saw the kind of lead India took in providing vaccines to countries which could not. And we had leaders almost touching the feet of Mr. Modi when he visited those countries. It's indicative that India took a tremendous step forward, an initiative in giving those vaccines, not just ensuring that all of us are protected, and that even our neighbors are protected, and even the countries from Africa are protected. So this is a very good initiative, and everybody is now looking up to India, that India will lead us in these kind of things, and India is helpful. Even now, India has sent so much of it to Lebanon. India has been sending all of it to Ukraine. So we have excellent relationship with all the countries. We have very good relationship with Israel. We have very good relationship with Lebanon. We have very good relationship with the Palestinians. We have very good relationship with Ukraine, Russia. Russia, of course, we have one of the finest relationship which has stood the test of time. And Mr. Putin and Mr. Modi, when they meet, that chemistry, that personal chemistry.
Indeed, and of course China is also aware of that. And I mean, I don't know about you, sir, I don't think it's a mere coincidence that the LSE patrolling agreements are coming just on the heels of the BRICS summit.
That it's a very good thing, because it reduces the tension.
Yes.
The winters are coming in.
Yeah.
That is one. And the tension is reduced between the two countries. And why not? At least I have seen the good times with China along the LAC, and I would much like those good times to return, so that if there is bonhomie on the LAC, there is less tension,
yes,
and that less tension benefits everybody.
Indeed,
and that is the way we are looking at it. It is not with a view to trying to be one-upmanship, but it's a good relationship which leads to bonhomie, and then ensuring that
just global development
absolutely,
and security. Thank you very much, Sanjay Kulkarni ji, for coming to our studios and giving us valuable insights on the BRICS summit underway in Kazan, Russia. So here is a report sent by our RT correspondents on BRICS and India's role in solving global problems. Take a look.
Hello to India from our studio in the Russian city of Kazan. Of course, this is where the BRICS summit kicks off today. Last year, it was a group of 5. Today, it stands as a power of 9. Of course, New Delhi plays a key role in the alliance. And it's an alliance that's living, breathing proof of the growth of the multipolar world. BRICS is all about giving a voice to the previously voiceless. And the global south is just waiting to be heard.
Now, if we talk about BRICS in general, then a lot is on the table here. They're talking about further growth, strengthening economies, security, strengthening the BRICS Development Bank, and perhaps most importantly, creating an independent BRICS international payment system, perhaps all crucial for BRICS to play a crucial role in the multipolar world. Igor Piskunov, RT, reporting from Kazan.
Well, crossing live now to RT correspondent Runjan Sharma. Runjan, welcome to Tatarstan. Do you think that India could be a platform, a space for mediation, for negotiation?
There's no doubt there. You see, Saskia, how many countries in the world today have access both to Russia and to Ukraine? In fact, how many leaders in the world have been both to Russia and to Ukraine? Remember, after Narendra Modi's first visit this year to Russia, soon after that, he also went to Ukraine. There was a lot of speculation as to why he's doing that. But of course, when you look at it in this conflict, there has been few leaders who've spoken to both the countries, and Narendra Modi understands that it is India, it is the global south that is basically, it's impacted by the conflicts that the West is engaged in. When you look at it from that perspective, of course, India wants the conflict to end.
So what does the BRICS alliance mean in world terms? Well, as of today, the group accounts for 46% of the global population. Just so we understand, that's 3.6 billion people. It also unites 45% of the Earth's landmass. And of course, economically, such a big player, representing more than 47% of global GDP. With the intake of new, very energy-rich members, it also brings 45% of the world's oil and gas reserves under its wings. Business, culture, geopolitics, finance, of course, fashion, even so much brings together the BRICS plus nations. And based on what we've been seeing and hearing, it looks like this group is in it for the long haul. That's for now. Goodbye from our beautiful special coverage studio right here in the heart of Kazan, just a stone's throw away from the world-famous UNESCO heritage site, the Kremlin.
Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Israel strikes Lebanon's Tyre after warning residents to evacuate swathes of the coastal city. Though some surveys give a slight edge to Harris over Trump, American voters, especially the Indian Americans, are still divided. We'll tell you why. Bangladesh protesters siege the Bonga Bhavan, at this time demanding the president's resignation.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we bring to you how India alongside other navies of Quad partners conducted exercise Malabar to check the growing Chinese hegemony in the Indo-Pacific region. On the show, we'll also tell you about Indian Army's largest arm, the infantry, and why do they celebrate the October 27th as the Infantry Day. In the show, We'll highlight the Indian Air Force's strategic airlift capabilities and tell you why it is so important for safeguarding national security, regional geopolitical interests, and HADR missions across the globe. Watch Defense Dynamics on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to West Asia now. Several strikes have been reported on Lebanon's Tyre on Wednesday after the Israeli army warned residents to evacuate swathes of coastal city which boasts a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Footage showed plumes of thick black smoke rising from several neighborhoods, with parts of the evacuation area just 500 meters from the city's ancient ruins. Only about 14,500 people were still in Tyre on Tuesday, thousands of them displaced from other parts of the south. The Israeli army called on residents of parts of the South Lebanon city of Tyre to evacuate on Wednesday. The army's Arabic language spokesman Avichai Adare posted a map of the affected streets in Tyre on social media platform X, urging residents to leave. Israeli military said that it had killed 3 Hezbollah commanders, some 70 fighters in southern Lebanon in the past 48 hours, a day after confirming the killing of Hashim Safieddin, the terrorist group's heir apparent leader. Israel has been carrying out an escalating offensive in Lebanon after years of border clashes with Hezbollah, the most formidably armed of Iran's proxy forces across West Asia. On a mission to find solution to the West Asia conflict, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Riyadh on Wednesday. He met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud and pushed ahead for a ceasefire between Israel and the militant groups. The visit can be seen as the last-ditch effort by the US in peace brokering between the two sides, as the upcoming presidential elections may change the US policy on the overall situation. While preparing to leave Israel for Riyadh on the next stage of his West Asia visit on Wednesday, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged Israel to use the opportunity created by its success in dismantling much of Hamas's capacity in Gaza and the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar to reach a longer-term solution in the conflict.
More broadly, there remains, despite everything that's happened, an incredible opportunity in this region to move in a totally different direction. One that actually provides, in a durable way, for Israel's security, for its place in the region, a country that's integrated, working with its Arab partners, accepted by them, isolating Iran and those who are trying to disrupt and destroy people's lives.
Lufthansa has extended the suspension of its flights to Tehran and Beirut until early next year. The German airline said that the decision is based over concerns of a wider conflict in West Asia. Flights to Tehran will be suspended up to and including January 31st, 2025, while those to Beirut are suspended up to and including February 28th, 2025. The group includes Swiss and Austrian airlines. Former US President and 2024 presidential candidate Donald Trump's campaign has accused British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party of blatant foreign interference in the US presidential election after its volunteers travelled to the United States to help campaign for Kamala Harris. The campaign has filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission in Washington, calling for an immediate investigation into what it called apparent illegal foreign national contributions made by the Labour Party of the United Kingdom and accepted by Harris for president. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, travelling on a flight to Samoa, told reporters that he did not expect the complaint to strain relations with Trump if he wins the election on November 5th, adding Labour volunteers had gone to pretty much every US election.
She's happy now.
So weeks ahead of the election, US presidential candidate Kamala Harris and Donald Trump campaigned on the last leg. Harris unveiled her economic proposals, emphasizing the need for funding small businesses, and Trump held a rally in North Carolina. Here are the key highlights of the campaign trail by the two leaders.
Campaigning in the United States is at its peak. All eyes are on the presidential election scheduled on November 5. With even less than 2 weeks to go, US presidential candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are going loud and clear on their poll promises. With economy to social reform to healthcare, all are covered. During an interview with NBC, Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris said she would work to bring more funds to community banks to help Latino men secure small business loans.
Absolutely. And I am saying that in terms of every walk of life of our country. You know, I think part of what is important in this election is really not only turning the page, but closing the page and the chapter on an era that suggests that Americans are divided.
Taking a dig at opponent Kamala Harris, former US President Donald Trump called her a low IQ individual while addressing a gathering in North Carolina on Tuesday.
With 4 more years of Kamala Harris, North Carolina will be an economic wasteland. That's what's going to happen. The rest of your companies are going to move out. Everybody knows that. The smart people know. She's the only one that doesn't know it. Low IQ. She's a low IQ individual.
Backing Harris, former US President Barack Obama drew cheers from supporters at a rally in Madison. Obama is among the 18 million Americans who voted early in 2024 presidential election. Harris is the first black woman and South Asian to be selected as the presidential nominee for a major US political party.
My point is, you'd be worried if Grandpa was acting like this. Right? You'd call up your brother, you'd call up your cousins, you say, have you noticed? But this is coming from somebody who wants unchecked power. So Wisconsin, we do not need to see what an older, loonier Donald Trump looks like with no guardrails. America's ready to turn the page. We are ready for a better story, Wisconsin. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
Latest Ipsos poll shows Harris leading marginally by 46% to 43% over former President Donald Trump, with a tight contest between candidates. Every vote matters. Bureau Report, DD India.
So with 2 weeks left for the White House race, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are intensifying their efforts to win votes in key battleground states. Though some surveys are giving a slight edge to Harris over Trump, American voters, especially the Indian Americans, are divided right from the middle. DD India's Amritpal Singh caught with some voters in Austin, Texas. Listen in.
With the election day just 2 weeks away, the latest poll done by Reuters suggests that Kamala Harris may have a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. Democrats to Republicans, 45 to 42 percentage points. While that may be good news for Kamala, because if she indeed is able to maintain that lead, it clearly means a win for her. But don't count Donald Trump out yet, because it's not about the number of votes polled here in the United States. It's not a first past the post system. It is actually a winner takes it all system. As in where I am in Texas, the state has 40 seats. If either party takes 21, all 40 go that party's way. Traditionally, Texas has voted for the Republicans. It's called a red state. But Kamala Harris will be here this week to woo voters, focusing more on abortion bans and the harm that has done to society. She's trying to woo women by that. While Donald Trump is campaigning hard in the swing states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Donald Trump is trying to woo voters on the issue of national security, illegal immigration, and tax cuts for reviving the U.S. economy. Clearly, the voter is also divided right from the middle.
I have seen my friends and other people who are saying that, oh, we want to have one president, and especially who is from Indian origin. So that's why, yes, the women are very excited that she is running for president.
They are much better adapt to us because we are all migrants from India and we are all hardworking. We do a lot of hard work here. So I would go with democratics.
जो ट्रम्प की पॉलिसीज़ हैं वो देश के लिए अच्छी पॉलिसी हैं क्योंकि वो सीधी क्लियर बात कर रहे हैं जो देश के लिए उन्हें करना है और कमला हैरिस जी है कि वो बात घुमा के बात कर रहे हैं.
So clearly it's a divided house and the divide runs right from the middle of the American society. That's what makes it a very, very tight race and this election interesting. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Austin, Texas.
Back to Asia. In Bangladesh, demand for the resignation of President Mohammad Shahabuddin intensified on Tuesday over his remarks on the resignation of ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in August this year. Several hundred protesters attempted to break through the security barriers in front of the Bonga Bhavan and the official residence of President on Tuesday. 5 people, including 2 journalists, were injured during a clash as joint law enforcers tried to block a group of protesters from entering the Bonga Bhavan. Girl students also took to the streets of Dhaka with torches in their hands on Tuesday. They chanted slogans and said that incidents of rape and harassment of women have increased even in comparison to the earlier government that existed till August the 5th. Women's rights group Bangladesh Mahila Parishad said that their organization had recorded cases of violence against women increased by more than a quarter in September compared to previous months. The Philippines braces for tropical storm Trami, with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. directing the government agencies to stay alert towards people's safety. The storm is expected to make a landfall between Wednesday evening to Thursday morning, according to state weather forecaster Pagasa. The agency also warned of strong winds, heavy rain and storm surges in coastal towns. As a preventive measure, schools and government offices have been suspended. Heavy downpour was witnessed in central regions ahead of the storm's landfall, triggering flash floods, forcing people to relocate to safer locations. So far, 1 person has been reported dead, with 5 others injured and 7 more missing. Strong winds and heavy downpour batter Cuba as tropical storm Oscar ravages the eastern region, with the Guantanamo province bearing the maximum brunt. Weakened to a tropical storm, Oscar wreaked havoc on the island nation, damaging power lines, flooding and mudslides at various places. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel confirmed that 6 people died due to the storm. Rescue operations are still underway, with administration assessing the damage in the already troubled Caribbean country. Britain on Wednesday will launch an independent commission tackling the crisis in its water utility sector after years of underinvestment and pollution scandals affecting rivers, lakes and seas. The commission, to be headed by a former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, will aim to strengthen regulation, boost investment and guide reforms to address inherited systemic issues. Reacting on which, Environment Minister Steve Reed said that the government is closely monitoring the Thames water and that the company remains viable, but he's prepared to take action if needed. The biggest water company, Thames Water, is battling to avoid collapse under its debt pile and has said that it could run out of cash if it does not secure a lifeline. The 2024 edition of the Embassy's flagship diaspora engagement event, Prasar Bharati, was inaugurated by Ambassador of India to Saudi Arabia, Dr. Suhail Ajaz Khan, at the Embassy Auditorium in Riyadh. The week-long cultural celebration commenced with a specially curated event titled Classical Languages of India, aimed at highlighting the rich linguistic diversity of the country. Launched last year by the Embassy of India in Saudi Arabia, Prasar Bharati has now become a significant cultural celebration. On the occasion, India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh, shared a welcome message with the Indian diaspora in Saudi Arabia, also wishing them for the upcoming festivities.
The Indian community in Saudi Arabia serves as a living bridge between our countries and cultures. And in the last year alone, more than 2 lakh new Indians have come to Saudi Arabia, which is a reflection of the strength of our relationship. I wish the vibrant diaspora in Saudi Arabia a happy festive season. May these festivals fill our lives with peace, prosperity, and happiness.
Next, we bring you other news from across the world. As the UN Biodiversity Summit takes place in Cali, Colombia, the city has opened green zones to engage citizens in conservation talks. The zones aim to strengthen public participation in the COP16 negotiations. Organizers hope that this will amplify diverse voices in the discussions. Apia, the capital of Samoa, is buzzing with activity as the nation gears up to host the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Flags and welcome banners line the streets in anticipation. The summit marks an important moment for Samoa on the global stage. Eddie Redmayne and Lashana Lynch graced the London red carpet for the premiere of their new thriller series, The Day of the Jackal. Based on the 1971 novel, the series follows an assassin being pursued across Europe. The show will debut on Sky Atlantic and now on November 7th. An outbreak of foot and mouth disease in Misrata, Libya has crippled local cattle farming. Dairy production has plunged from 70,000 litres to just 20,000 litres a day, severely impacting the economy. Farmers are still waiting for vaccines to protect their livestock. As Cyclone Dana is set to make landfall along the coasts of Indian states of West Bengal and Odisha on 24th and 25th of October, the Indian Coast Guard is on high alert, closely monitoring the situation and being ready for any emergency. Various preventive measures are being implemented by the Indian Coast Guard. These include strategic positioning of the vessels and aircrafts, broadcast of weather warnings and safety advisories, and disaster relief teams on standby mode to safeguard lives and property at sea. Additionally, the ICG personnel are working closely with local administrations and disaster management authorities to ensure a coordinated and effective response. Regular weather warnings and safety advisories are being transmitted continuously to all fishing vessels and mariners, urging them to return to shore immediately and seek safe shelter and avoid venturing into the sea until the cyclone passes. India's Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, on Wednesday inaugurated a World Congress on Engineering Asset Management, organized by IIT Kanpur at the Constitution Club in New Delhi. The three-day conference will focus on technology and research related to infrastructure, construction and process industries. On the occasion, Union Minister Nitin Gadkari spoke about the success of ethanol blending in petrol, which has been increased to 15% in 2024 and is targeted to reach 20% by 2025. Regarding electric vehicles, he stated that India will soon be capable of exporting lithium-ion batteries and estimated that EV market could see sales of 10 million vehicles by 2030, with the EV finance market valued at 5 lakh crore rupees.
The dream of our Prime Minister to make Indian economy of $5 trillion and make India the third largest economic power in the world. Now, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And for all these things, we need to have a roadmap, an appropriate vision by which we can fulfill this dream.
Delhiites woke up to heavy smog on Wednesday, with the air quality index recorded at 354, placing it in the very poor category. Smog was seen in several parts of the national capital, including near India Gate, Arrow City, Lodi Road, Ames and Akshardham Temple. The Commission for Air Quality Management has invoked Stage 2 of the anti-pollution plan and urged citizens to limit vehicle use and avoid dust-producing activities. Experts warn that Delhi's air quality is likely to remain in very poor category due to unfavourable weather conditions. And next, a look at other stories making news in India. The Kartarpur Sahib Corridor Agreement has been renewed for the next 5 years between India and Pakistan. The Kartarpur Sahib Corridor allows Indian pilgrims to visit Gurudwara Darbar Sahib in Narowal, Pakistan. The earlier agreement signed on 24th October 2019 was about to expire soon. Union Minister Nityanand Rai addressed an event to commemorate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction in New Delhi on Wednesday. The minister emphasized on the use of social media for weather forecasts and natural calamity information as it can reach out to the youth better. And in Karnataka, an under-construction building collapsed, killing 5 people and injuring 5 others. The injured have been admitted to the local hospital. 14 people were rescued so far, with rescue teams looking for more survivors. And let's now take a look at updates from the world of business. First, stock market news from India. The Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange dropped 139 points, while the Nifty ended below 24,450 during the market's close on Wednesday. Nifty showed early recovery but failed to surpass the 24,600 resistance and turned downward in the afternoon. The market remained in consolidation after Tuesday's sharp weakness. Foreign direct investments into Germany are falling, according to a new report by the country's central bank. DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu joins us with more from Berlin on the story now. Chiponda, can you tell us more about the trends?
Thanks for having me. Well, direct investment into Germany has collapsed in recent years, according to the Bundesbank, Germany's central bank. Now, its data shows that foreign companies invested over 100 billion euros in equity capital in both 2020 and 2021. But by the middle of this year, however, only 62 billion euros had been invested. The German central bank believes that this could be a signal of a turning point in the international division of labor. So there's a change in terms of where goods are being produced. And that was triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The central bank says the two events could have permanently changed production patterns. And this may be what is directing foreign investment away from Germany.
Reasons behind the drop in direct investments?
Well, the reasons behind the decline in direct investment inflows to Germany since 2022 are yet to be identified specifically. But the Bundesbank says that high energy prices may have played a major role. And of course, also cyclical and structural factors could have also contributed. Now, in addition to that, there's also growing competition for investment between countries. The U.S. announced the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022, which aimed at encouraging investment in domestic energy production and promoting innovation in greener technologies. Now, many experts argue that the European Union has failed to come up with an adequate response. And that might be causing companies, including European firms, to relocate their production to the U.S., for instance.
And how does Germany compare to other EU countries?
Out of the continued weakness of Germany's manufacturing, the IMF downgraded the Eurozone's 2025 growth to 1.2% in its World Economic Outlook, which was released on Tuesday. Now, that is 0.3% lower than its previous forecast for the region in the summer. And it slashed Germany's forecast by 0.5%, and it now expects Europe's industrial powerhouse to grow 0.8%. Now, other EU countries are expected to do better. And when it comes to direct investment, both France and Spain, for instance, are doing better. Now, the Bundesbank says energy prices, for one, may have made Germany a less attractive place for new investments. And the outlook isn't positive, of course.
Thank you, Chipunda, joining us from DW Berlin. Norway is set to become the first country in the world to sell only electric cars from next year, 10 years ahead of the European Union's target. The transition is fueled by generous tax breaks and incentives backed by oil and gas revenues. These incentives include exemptions from sales tax for electric vehicle buyers. Moreover, consumers are drawn by both financial advantages and environmental benefits. That's all for this edition of DD India NewsHour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.